All right, today is going to be a fun one. It's Q&A time. A couple videos ago to celebrate my 5K subscribers and 500,000 views. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I decided to do a Q&A and I was overwhelmed with the awesome questions that everyone asked. I thought there would be a fair amount of duplicates just because there's common questions you get for minimalists and specifically ultra minimalists like me who are big giant weirdos. But actually there were so many different, just random, cool, specific, off the wall questions it was really cool to see how people's brains work and what people are curious about. And there were over 100 questions. So I am going to try and get to them all. Probably in a two-part video though. This is going to be part one because it would be way too long. So this will be part one. I'll get to as many as I can. And thank you to everyone who asked these questions because it can be a learning tool for other people who are aspiring minimalists or just other, things of philosophical nature that we talk about on this channel. We're all here to help each other. I'm not some special guru or whatever. I'm just some chick sharing my life on YouTube, but the community here is awesome and we can all learn from each other and help each other grow and help each other shed what is unneeded, whether it is a physical object or an emotional thing or a behavioral thing. We can all help each other just move forward in life in a positive way. And so hopefully this Q&A will either lend to that or just let you know a little bit more about me, this strange lady you've been watching on YouTube. And if you're new here but just decided to click on this anyway, hello, hi, welcome. I am Explorivore. We talk about all things minimalism and spirituality and philosophy and travel and just living with intentionality here. So if you want to stay and hang out today, that would be great. Welcome to the family here. All right, so without further ado, there are so many questions. I'm going to dive right into it. And again, thank you everyone who reached out and had a question for me. These were super fun and super thoughtful, and I appreciate everyone wanting to connect here. So let's go. Numero uno. And I'm not going to say each number every time because I'm just probably going to lose track. But here we go. At least we'll start with number one. How would I start my minimalism journey if I was starting today? Well, honestly, probably not that different. And not to say like, oh, I did everything perfectly, but I think the layers in which I was drawn to it, I was never really following someone else's cheat sheet or template or you should do this in this way. It was always kind of self-led and self-guided of my soul just saying, I need to let this thing go. And it started with clothes because that was sort of the obvious thing and I was moving out of different phases of my life. And then from there, each new layer of like household goods and then sentimental items and then papers, it was sort of just a natural progression. I never planned it out. I was never really following someone else's you should or shouldn't do this or do this on this timeline thing. It was kind of my intuition guiding the whole time. And then I would get rid of things and then see, oh yeah, I don't need this thing now. And as I've talked about, there's always layers with it. So I don't think it would happen any differently if I had all this stuff and was starting now at this phase. The only thing I think would go quicker is clothing because I know who I am more as an individual. There were definitely cycles 10 years ago of I would get rid of a bunch of things, but then I would buy some things, but then have to get rid of those years later because I was still sort of figuring out my personal style. But other than that, I think it would be sort of the same. So yeah. Number two. This one's funny. Is Grogu / Baby Yoda cute? Yes, sure. I'm not sure if I've even seen if he's in movies, but yeah, Baby Yoda, cute, totally. Do I have Wi-Fi? I mentioned before that I was just uploading all my videos at the library. I have now moved into my new spot. There's a sneak preview behind me. But I went to the local library here and the Wi-Fi totally sucked. So I had to break down and get Wi-Fi. But the good news is I got it through Verizon, who is my cell phone provider, and they tacked it on as like a bundle to my cell phone service. So it was only $35 for super high speed internet. And it's tacked onto the same bill, so I don't have to really deal with a new bill. It's just a little bit more. And to me, that was totally worth it. So now I can actually upload all my videos from home instead of driving to the library, which will create a more free time in my schedule anyway. So yes. How did I handle digitizing my old photos and letting go of family photos / sentimental one? Well, you can do it fancy ways. There's a machine that does it, but I neither had one nor wanted to purchase one. And I was also impatient. It was, again, one of those intuitive pulls of, I got to get rid of these photo albums. I didn't have a ton, but I definitely did have a lot from my competitive swimming years, and then some from childhood. And growing up with my dad, he was not the scrapbooky, like a million photo album type of person. Like I had some, but not a ton. So it wasn't that big of a project, but it definitely took some time. I was super, what's the word, kind of ghetto about it. I literally just took a picture on my phone of all the physical copies and like tried to frame it as well as I could. But honestly, I was just like, I just need to be able to see it. I'm not trying to impress anyone with the quality of these photos. I just wanted to be able to come back on them if I could. So took a picture of it on my phone, and then at that time I still had my laptop, so I uploaded it all to a laptop. And then a couple years later, when I wanted to get rid of my laptop, I just uploaded all of those photos into Dropbox, which is now where I have them. So if I ever want to see my childhood photos, they're literally in an app on my phone and completely accessible. And when I did let them go, yes, I felt a tinge of guilt, but it was, I mean, it's not like you're throwing away your actual family member or you're throwing away your childhood. It's just a paper that we gave meaning to. And it's, again, I wasn't not able to ever see those photos again. They're all just in the cloud. So I threw them away, and there was that little tinge of like, oh man, that was sad. But then I felt total relief because I had moved so many times, and carrying around this huge box of really heavy photo albums, they were gone, and I don't feel any remorse about that anymore. I did keep one physical photograph of my father and I when I was a little baby because it's a very special one, but that's literally the only one I have. Okay, next. How do I filter what I bring into my life? Are there questions I ask myself? Yes, definitely. I am super specific, whether it is a piece of clothing or something for my kitchen or just something for my home or something as simple as a pair of socks. I need to know that it is really, truly going to add value to my life. So I always ask, what specific function does this serve? Is it serving a function that something else isn't? Meaning, if I already have something that does this thing, I'm not going to get a duplicate item that does that thing. And do I really and truly need it? Will I really and truly use it on a day-to-day basis? And I have to really, really love it. That goes more for, I mean, there's certain like functional things like scissors or something, even though I've had the same pair of scissors for like, I don't know, 15 years at this point, but more with clothing or things that are more on the non-essential spectrum. I have to really, 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 really love it and it spark joy, as Marie Kondo would say, or it's not coming home with me. So absolutely, there is that scrutiny process with every single thing that comes into my home. How do I deal with people's judgments of my life? This is a harder one. With my friends are all sort of Island of Misfit toy friends as well. Like they're eclectic. None of them are minimal though. And actually none of my closest friends are vegan either. I'm kind of like a misfit among misfits. But I have a special group of people that really and truly love me and see me for who I am and appreciate me, even though we're all different. The true soul connections are deeper than how you put your life out there on the surface. And some are inspired, some that just think it's cool, but most of them, like, I don't just only hang out with minimalist people. I'm actually really the only extreme minimalist that I know in my circle, but it doesn't matter. My friends just love me for who I am, and so there's no judgment there. With my family, they also love me, but they are even more traditional, I would say, and I have a very large extended family, and of course everyone's got their own uniqueness, but they're all fairly similar as far as life paths, I would say, and certainly how they choose to curate their homes. It's just they're very nice and very tasteful, but very normal American consumer spectrum. And I definitely, while there's no harsh judgments as far as them ever being mean, there is definitely I think an undertone of like, what's she doing? Or I think she's weird, especially with my aunts. My cousins, like whatever, they're younger than me, but my aunts, there's still that maternal instinct of like, why is she living like this? But as long as I'm very clear about that, living this way keeps me happy and balanced and sane. And at the end of the day, it's my house. So if they do have judgments, I don't care because it's my home. I take care of myself and I get to live how I want to live. So and if it's like a stranger or someone like a coworker or something, if they were ever to have a judgment, I really don't encounter that. But if they do, I just could care less because those type of people have no credibility in my book. Next, what do I do in my free time? I have a couple videos, my ultra minimalist evening routine and morning routine. That's kind of my free times because I tend to work like in a middle chunk of a day. It's not a lot, to be honest, and I know it may sound very boring to some people, but it's a lot of meditation and silence and listening to music and being in nature and just cultivating stillness. Sometimes reading a book, but honestly, with the amount of time that I put into this channel, which is also the bulk of my free time, I just haven't been into reading that much lately, but I do enjoy reading. Watching a movie maybe once or twice a month, but never TV, never anything screen time stimulus, and very often alone because my profession is so social. I really need a lot of solitude to decompress. What is my name? Some people, I would say actually, there's a few people that have asked my name on this channel, but it's not a secret. I just have been using Explorer this whole time. The last name I won't be handing out today, but my first name, hi, is Alicia, and you spell it A-L-I-C-I-A. So it's spelled Alicia, but pronounced Alicia. But for my foreign friends in the Romance languages, if you are French or Spanish, it's more natural to say Alicia, and I welcome that and appreciate it because it always sounds so beautiful when you all say it. So that's my name. Do I have any tattoos? Are you guessing? Are you guessing? No, I do not. I totally don't. I am not anti-tattoo. I think they look super cool, whether you're male or female or however you express yourself, non-binary, etc. Tats are great. I can't commit. That's really the only story of it. When I was training to try and make the Olympic team, I always had a vision that I would get the Olympic rings if I made the team, but I didn't make it. So I've never really, I almost, when I was like 24 or something, I was at a tattoo shop with my boyfriend at the time, and I had a big lotus flower drawn on my lower back and was like about to get it, and I was like, oh my God, no, what am I doing? This, I will totally regret this, like tramp stamp thing. And lotus flowers, like they can be beautiful, but they're also kind of basic, and like I just can't, for as much as I like to shapeshift with my appearance, even though I'm more natural now, like and I guess you could say a tattoo's not supernatural because it's ink put into your body. I just can't commit to something being on my skin for the rest of my life. It kind of freaks me out, even though I've had some visions of ones, like different mantras I would want. When I think about actually going through with it, I don't think I ever really will because it freaks me out to have something on my body that I won't ever be able to remove. So no tattoos. Do I have any premonitions on what might be leaving my life in the future? Yes and no. I don't think like super forethought. It's more just like, I talked about this in my last video, the feeling of intuition, whether it's a push versus a pull. A push is like ego and the brain and forcing and thinking you should be doing something, versus a pull is just the intuition, something bigger than you coming through you and guiding through you. And all of my huge declutters of things that were like really monumental, that had a lot of weight energetically, those were all pulls. They weren't really, you know, a few things I had hummed and hawed over for a couple weeks, but like the biggest things are really just intuition led. And it's in this moment of, okay, yes, I'm ready to let go of this next big thing. And then I follow through on that. How do I deal with boredom now that I have so little stimulus in my life? Honestly, after the first initial band-aids being ripped off of when I let go of TV a few years ago and let go of social media, predominantly Instagram a few years ago, and the fact that my job and previously when I had two jobs were both so draining and so stimulus filled, for those of you don't know, I work as a bartender in an extremely busy restaurant, and it's just chaos. And for 10 years, I was also a teacher teaching competitive synchronized swimming to youth. So I was in charge of cultivating the mental, physical, and emotional development of young athletes and creating this whole competitive program at the elite level. So it was so much energy that to the ounces of free time I had, and now that I have, and on top of, you know, outside of my work now, I am doing a lot with this channel. So when I finally stop, I'm not bored at all. I'm just like, oh my gosh, I just appreciate nothingness so much more at this stage in my life. And I don't judge myself anymore for doing nothingness. I used to think I would have to fill every second of the day to be productive and therefore valuable or worthy as a person. I don't feel like that anymore, and I just appreciate slowness and stillness and see how much it rebalances me so much that like I honestly really don't get bored anymore. And I think years ago I probably would have felt bored when I was so addicted to it, but the more you do it, the more you practice it, and eventually I think that boredom falls away. Have I ever considered raw veganism? No, I've experimented with I've actually had many years of my life where I was very high raw, and that comes and goes in waves. In the warmer months, I definitely tend to gravitate towards more fruit and can be happy as a clam eating just fruit all day and then having a cooked dinner. But I have experimented with a few weeks at a time of being completely raw, and while there were certain benefits I felt from it, it was so much energy actually that I had trouble sleeping because I was like, woo, let's go. And I do think when your digestive system doesn't have to work as hard, that it does create a lot more energy in your life. And so that's why I find high raw, especially during the day while I'm on the go or working hard, is really helpful. Like for today, for example, I've just had fruit and some like bell pepper and whatnot because I was just working all day, and it feels very light. But then by the end of the day, I need a big, giant, fat, like hippopotamus-sized dinner, and getting enough calories from raw is really, really hard. Can you do it? Yes, but it tends to be, if you're eating raw, you need things like a lot of nuts and seeds, and those can be hard to digest in large quantities. At least I found that to be true. And I don't want to undereat. I want to feel good on a vegan lifestyle. And for me, it was just really hard to get enough calories in being completely raw vegan. Does that mean I'm sweepingly saying, no, it won't work for everyone? No, of course. Like, you have to, like I've said, you have to be your own barometer and feel into what feels right for you. And for me, it's, while I love raw vegan foods and the energy that it gives me, I absolutely need a cornerstone of starchy foods like rice and potatoes and pasta in my life to feel satiated and feel like I'm getting enough nutrients in. So next, do I ever get jealous? Yeah, totally. Even the past few days I've been dealing with it. Again, I'm not trying to give the illusion here on this channel that I'm some spiritual guru that's ascended to 5D and jealousy never happens to me. Like, no, I get jealous all the time. I'm still human, but I think the difference is at this phase of my life versus like my earlier 30s or my 20s is it'll move through quicker, and I can rationalize it in a way where I'm not suppressing the emotions, but I'm just saying like, yep, of course I'm reacting to this situation that I can see on the lens of like, oh yeah, it would be better if I had that seemingly, but I know a little bit more to know now that things aren't always what they seem on the surface. You can see someone's life, especially on social media, they're presenting it all perfect and happy and photoshopped, but who knows what the hell kind of trauma they're going through. They could be super depressed or anxious or dealing with money problems, or their perfect relationship is actually abusive or something, or they have all the boxes checked, but they feel no purpose in their life. Like, the list could go on and on and on. Things aren't always what they seem, and you don't know what other people's struggles are. So to be jealous of other people is really not productive. And also, everyone is on their own path, and I do think circumstances are dealt your way because life is acting for you, not to you, and it's meant for growth in some kind of way, even if it is something difficult. But as far as like what I get jealous about, it's never material things. I've never seen someone with like a Bugatti. Is that a car or a handbag? I don't even know. I've heard the word. Or like a Lamborghini or a mansion, or, being able to buy $1,000 outfit every day. Like, I could care less about any of that. I have no desire for that. If you wrote me a check for $10 million today and said, go shopping, I don't know what I would buy. I would buy some groceries. And then I'd give a lot to charity, and then I would buy experiences with it. Absolutely. I would travel more, but the getting jealous of material things or in the luxury world, like, absolutely not. That has no value in my heart. The things I get jealous of are like, I've shared that my love life is abysmal. So seeing people in happy couples, I'll get jealous, or seeing someone that breaks up but then automatically has a relationship 2 weeks later. I'm like, wait, how did you do that? But I have a deeper trust of, okay, I'm on my path for a reason. And again, you don't know what other circumstances those people are in. So it's not worth it to expend energy on that. Do I have tips on how to live more independently? I mean, I've mentioned that I don't socialize very much, but that's just how I'm wired. I would never tell someone who thrives off of human connection and is a just natural extrovert and gets energy from being in social situations and that nourishes them. I would never say, you should stop doing that. I am so independent because I have to be, because I'm wired like that. Social situations are very draining for me. It's not because I hate people. It's just, I'm wired differently. For me, I recharge and recenter and get energy from spending time alone. And then I can take that out into the world. And then on top of that, I don't work at a desk in a cubicle in silence for 8 hours a day. I work with people. As a bartender, I have to talk to hundreds of people between guests and coworkers every day. So to socialize on top of that is just way too much for me. That's why it doesn't happen that often. But if you really are wanting to find more independence with yourself, I would say just start with simple things. Start exploring and seeing what feels good to do on your own. Certainly things in nature. When I've had lonely times in life, if I go out into nature and with the trees or a creek or the ocean or on an awesome hiking trail in the mountains, I don't feel lonely. I feel lonely when I was living in LA and I was in this like god-awful, like horrible decrepit apartment in Hollywood and just pinned up in there and working 2 jobs and not socializing. I felt lonely as hell. But here I can not see people for days at a time and go out into nature and be at the beach and still not be around people, but I won't feel the same loneliness. So you find your independence, go be in nature, and just finding what you like to do on your own, whether it's a sport or some kind of craft or hobby, or even just, some people think it's weird to go out to dinner by yourself. That's literally my favorite thing. I do that all the time. You can people watch if you want to, you can listen to music or just like meditate to the sort of white noise of conversation around you. And it's really nice to not talk during dinner sometimes, because you can just really connect with your food and taste it and just relax and chill more. Next, do I plan on getting any pets? I've mentioned before, I used to have a little baby girl, Gemma. She is actually, my ex and I had her together, and then when we split 10 years ago, it made more sense for her to stay with him because he had a bigger home, and I was moving to LA and living in a studio and working and commuting like crazy, and I didn't want to leave a kitty just penned up all day in there. So she had not been living with me. Now, the way I live my life, I do have a space that would allow for pets, but that I want to travel so much and that I am out of the house a lot and it is just me, I don't see it in the near future. I don't like the idea of leaving a little animal at home all day. Even though cats are independent, they still want love and connection, and I'm so used to coming and going as I please, and also the financial responsibility. Unfortunately, I mean, there's pet insurance, but both of the cats that my ex-partner and I had together had crazy health problems, even though we took care of them so well. And they weren't like complete outdoor cats. They were mostly indoors, and we actually walked them on leashes. But health problems can happen with animals, and just with how much I'm paying on rent here and the goals I have for myself, it's just not a responsibility I want to take on at this time. And if I do have a cat, it would be if I know that I'm going to be in one place for a very long time. And also I'd want to do it with a partner to make sure that the little fur baby is always given enough love and attention. Moving on. Okay, we're at 23 minutes and I'm only on question 16, so I don't think I'm doing a very good job. We're going to try and get through these a little bit more because I want to make sure everyone's question gets answered. So here we go. How I make friends as an introvert? It's always been through either work or my passion. My synchronized swimming was my life's work. I was a competitive synchronized swimmer for a long time. And then I performed in a Cirque du Soleil style show called Le Rêve in Las Vegas. And then I was a teacher and a choreographer for 10 years after that. So it's been the bulk of my life. And that's honestly where my closest, dearest friends have come from, because it takes a certain kind of, I think, a special kind of insanity to get into that sport because it's so grueling and so difficult, and it attracts a certain type of person. It's definitely, you know, it's so difficult and detail oriented, but it's also very artistic. So it was a very like-minded community, and we went through hell together in a lot of circumstances, but a lot of joy together too. So that's where my dearest friends, lifelong friends, have come out of. And then my most recent job, I've been there for 8 years with the restaurant, is I've never said I was passionate about working in a restaurant, but the one in particular that I work with, I am passionate about the mission of healthy food that we promote, and it's just been this really cool sort of law of attraction of people come and go in the restaurant all the time, but this specific one attracts a lot of just really cool, artistic, fun, creative, health-oriented, spiritual-oriented people. And so in this particular location in San Diego, I've made a lot of really great friends too, and I'm super thankful for that, because outside of those two bubbles, I haven't made a lot of friends at all. But for me, I'm always quality over quantity, and I would rather have a smaller group of really beautiful friends that even if we don't see each other for a couple years, when we do, we just pick up right where we left off. So I think it comes down to plugging into arenas where you feel your passion come out and you feel your most authentic self come out, and that will definitely lend itself to meeting some friends. Okay, how do I deal with conflicts? Head on. Well, also, caveat to that, it depends on who it's with. If it's at work, because work conflicts show up all the time, I hate drama, I hate gossiping, I hate going to the middleman, to whatever. I just deal with the person, have the conversation calmly in the moment when it's appropriate, and say, hey, how you spoke to me in this way, that was kind of bullshit. I'd like to be treated with respect because I want to respect you, and work it out in that moment. And then usually it's fine and there's no overhanging tension or drama. With family members, family is really tricky. Family, like people that love you and are closest to you, have the biggest ability to trigger you, I think. That's just how it is. But with certain family members, when certain tensions show up, I've found that it's better to just back off and do your own inner work and see why you're triggered so much, see why it's causing you so much pain, see why they're them and their history, because you grew up together. You can see why they're saying certain things or behaving certain ways. And sometimes I found, rather than try to hash it out because it will end up in just a blowout argument, to just step back and be the bigger person and not allow certain egregious behavior to happen, but not suppressing the emotions, I should say, but just understanding where they're coming from and coming more to a place of forgiveness and letting go and just doing your own work and seeing that all of those experiences were given to you as a learning tool to overcome certain wounds and just strengthen yourself in certain ways and exercise compassion in a healthy way. Conflicts. How do I show up for obligations when not feeling well, or if I'm feeling insecure? Honestly, that comes down to discipline. I've always been an A-type kid, and when going through the training I went through for synchronized swimming, it was about 40 hours a week during the school week, and then 60 hours a week when I was on the US national team. And so I was going to school and training full time, and often had some jobs as well. And if I didn't sleep because I was up all night writing a paper, or I had a cold, or I just was sore or tired, or I had a migraine, it didn't matter. Well, the mission was too important. We were the best team in the country, so there was no such thing as, I just don't feel good, I'm tired, I need to rest today. Like, your butt was in the pool, and that sort of discipline has stuck with me. And now I think of course that pendulum has swung to where I have the ability to exercise self-care more in my life, because I'm not training to try and make the Olympic team anymore. But the level of discipline, as far as like, I never call out of work because I'm too tired, because while I prioritize self-care, I also prioritize financial security and stability and freedom, because when you don't have those things, that causes a whole nother level of stress that I just do not want in my life. So and as far as feeling insecure, it's when you find something that you can add value to in the world, something you're good at. It doesn't have to be on a huge scale of importance, but just find those moments where you're helpful in the world, whether it's being a good listener, or being really fast at your work, or giving a good presentation at your work, or being really good at crocheting, whatever. Keep reminding yourself of those things and hone in on them, and keep bringing them to the table, and that will help add with your confidence on that. I do have a video called Own Your Energy, Lessons Learned from Being a Go-Go Dancer in Las Vegas. That is all about self-confidence if you want to check that out. Going on, 29 minutes. There's no way I'm getting to 100 questions. We're going to keep going a little bit, and then we'll split this up into a second or maybe even a third part video. But okay, we keep going here. How do I deal with heated arguments with loved ones? I actually just sort of touched on that earlier. It's, again, I think with family specifically, it's taking a breath, taking a step back. If you do really need to communicate something, written letters can be helpful because you can be calm and communicate versus trying to hash things out when there's anger. That's never really productive. And coming back to, again, your own inner work. Am I ever hard on myself for my career choice? Advice I would give for this. Yeah, actually, totally. I've gotten better about it. The steps I had leading up to this are sort of why I'm in the position I am in. If any of you don't know, I was a performing artist for a long time after I retired from competitive synchronous swimming. I was in the show in Las Vegas, and then I was a dancer after that, and then a teacher and a choreographer for years after that. And that is how I ended up in restaurants, because while teaching kids and being a choreographer and an artist was a complete passion for me and so gratifying, the pay was shit. There was no way I could live off of it. So I had to work in restaurants to supplement that. And it's really in just the past year and a half that I retired from teaching, and I have stayed in restaurants simply because I'm not sure where to go at this point in my career. And I have a college degree in business marketing, but entering the business world, and specifically the marketing world, when I am so vehemently against the mass consumerism that we are on in this planet, doesn't feel right to me. And also because I chose the performing arts career for, age 23 to 2 years ago, it's a long time, I don't have the relevant experience to get into the marketing world. So I am sort of at a crux of not knowing what to do with my career. I'll just throw that out there. But I don't regret any of it, because it gave me such joy and such passion and such unique experiences. And I got to achieve so many dreams that I don't regret it for a second. Saying, oh, should I have just gone into marketing straight out of college? Like, no, it would have not brought me anywhere 1% of the joy I got to experience it. So I keep that in mind. And also there are many positives of what I get to do now. It gives me a lot of freedom. I've mentioned I work with amazing people that are actually my friends. My bosses are my friends. I make good money, and I still get to use my body in a physical way. I had an office job for 2 months in my life, and I absolutely hated it, and there's no way I could end up back there. So there's trade-offs to everything in life, but I think if you are struggling with being hard on yourself for your career choice, I would say, let go of the idea of the hierarchy within things. We're conditioned in the West to think that certain jobs are more important than others, but I'll leave you with one woo-woo comment on this. When I was driving through the mountains of Oregon and solo traveling and just staring at these incredible trees and the incredible landscape, there was this really deep spiritual shift within me of just this knowing of everything we've made up as humans is completely made up. The scale of importance of things, like if your job is taking care of you and letting you, adult in the world, and you're again able to take care of yourself, then it really doesn't actually matter what it is. Okay, moving on here. I'm at 32 minutes. We'll do a couple more questions, and then we're gonna have to call it a day on this one. Oops, I just read that one. How do I spend my weekends/vacations? Vacations depends on the year. I'm traveling way less this year because last year I had a bunch of weddings to go to, and I tend to go big or go home on vacations. I don't do just little things here and there. Like I did 2 months in the Pacific Northwest last year, and then I had a bunch of weddings which were more like obligatory, but not obligatory. I'm blessed to have a family that loves me and wants to invite me to their weddings, and they were lots of fun. And then there was my favorite band, Heilung. They had 2 shows that were near me, one in LA and one in Denver, so I went to those. And then as far as weekends, it's what I mentioned earlier. It's slow living. It's a lot of making content for this channel, and then just as much slow living as I can to balance out the chaos of my job. So nature, music, meditation, that's really it. Eating good food. Moving on here. If I could be an animal, what would I be? Either a horse or a snow leopard. I get 2 because I'm a Gemini. I feel spiritual connections to both of those. What traits do I adore/desire in a person? Oh, dislike. I read my own writing long. What do I adore/what am I icked by in a person? Adore, passion, integrity, honesty, intensity. Triggers/dislikes. laziness, dishonesty, and entitlement, I would say. Do I hike long or short trails on a daily basis? Hiking totally depends on my schedule. During the week when I don't have as much time, it's usually just walking around my neighborhood. On the weekends when I have the energy for it, I'll do like a 3-ish mile hike, usually is about, which is not that long. I honestly don't do like gung-ho 8-mile hikes that much because I'm on my feet 40 hours a week and I'm usually exhausted and I know I need to rest my body on the weekends. But while I was traveling in Oregon, I did tons and tons of long hikes. So it's more on like nature vacations that I'll do longer hikes. When I film, is it pre-planned or do I just point, shoot, and see what comes out of my head / out of my ass? It's definitely always pre-planned, sort of. I get a general idea of what I want to talk about that day, and if I'm stuck, I will do a little meditation and ask, what wants to come through me today? Sometimes it's just an idea of like, oh yeah, I really want to talk about this, and I always flesh it out to a certain degree of just some general bullet points to keep me on track. Or if it's like, some of my videos have lists. So I have my trusty journal, like we're working off of today, where it's, I'm just following a list. But as far as scripting, I never script. I hate jump cuts. I hate scripted. It feels fake and whatever. So that's why sometimes I get tongue tied or get a little off track sometimes. I talk just as if you would to a person. You don't plan conversations to your friends. You just have a conversation with your friends. So I will have a general idea of what I want to talk about and maybe 3 to 5 bullet points, or if it's a specific list, but then nothing like long and scripted. I will just sort of go off of that. Okay, we're at 36 minutes. That was only 25 questions. I have so many more to get to. We'll try and make the next video quicker, but I'm going to wrap it up for today. If you made it through all of these, hopefully it was fun and or interesting for you. And I will promise I will get to everyone else's questions in the next, hopefully 1 video, but maybe 2 more, we'll see. And home tour is coming soon, I promise. Yeah, so that's it for today. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.